Welcome to the Franklin Method Fellowship. I'm your co-host Solange Ross, and I'm joined by my colleague Deborah Chassie. We are physical therapists specializing in the pelvic floor. In this podcast, we share our passion for the Franklin Method, an evidence-based therapeutic approach using mental imagery, movement, and awareness to improve posture, the way you move and feel, and overall well-being. We integrate the Franklin Method into functional everyday movements, all forms of exercise, and our physical therapy practices. We also share a love for talking about the pelvic floor. We hope to inspire you to move better and feel better in your body. Always check with your doctor before beginning an exercise program. This podcast is not intended to be used as medical advice. Let's grab your Franklin Method balls and bands. Enjoy the show.
Good morning, and for some of you, it might be good afternoon or good evening. Anyway, welcome to the Franklin Method Fellowship, and we are in episode 8 on the spine. And I'm so excited I'm excited to be here with my colleague Solange Ross. And Solange,
Everyone.
you're in New Jersey, right?
Yes, I'm coming to you from my garage, which we store all of our bikes and surfboards and all of our fun gadgets in New Jersey.
And your skeleton.
And my skeleton. And this skeleton is special because this is actually my teacher's skeleton. This is Eric Franklin's skeleton that he had in the city and he used for all of the trainings that I attended. So I'm so happy that the skeleton has a home here.
That's awesome.
It is.
And I'm here at home, Corona Del Mar. Beautiful area to be in, as always. I love it here.
Aww.
Anyway, today we're going to feed the balls and bands. Now, if you don't have Franklin balls, then I would suggest to roll up a washcloth. That might work, and just kind of bunch it up. Or you could really choose anything. But for what we're going to do to begin with, you could use your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then another activity later on will require the band, but you could use a long scarf or a yoga strap. So what we're going to do today is start off with tapping. And I'd like to start with tapping the legs. So we'll do just one side first, and then we'll compare, and then we'll add in the arm and the thorax, and then we'll compare, and then later we'll do the other side.
Great.
All right. So when you're tapping, you want to use a wrist motion, right? So it's tap, 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 tap. And if you're using your hand or your fist, you could do it like that or like that, right? It's kind of a quick motion. So I'm going to bring my leg up here so that you can see it better. All right. So I'm going to start tapping down at my foot. So see how the wrist action is, and tap my lower leg all around and even behind. And Solange is using 2 balls and I'm using 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then my upper leg underneath.
And it's also worth to mention that there's no wrong place to tap. So just tap everywhere that feels good and using a pressure that it should always feel good. It shouldn't feel painful.
Good point. And I like to get the buttocks too. And you could do this with your leg extended in standing, but so that you can see it, I'm showing you with my hip flexed. Mm-hmm. This is so good, for proprioception and for the lymphatic system, because when you're stimulating the lymphatics, you're stimulating the proprioceptors and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. It also feels really, really good.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just compare. So just notice standing, how your posture feels. And why would we tap our leg if we're talking about the spine? Any ideas on that, Solange?
Well, our spine, right? The foundation for us, it really comes from the ground to our feet, up the legs, into the pelvis, and then our spine. So we would want to start tapping the leg because that's our support for the spine from the ground up.
Perfect. Yeah. And then if we stand on one leg to check your balance on the leg that we did compared to the other leg. Or what about a kick? Ooh, that's a good kick for me. Do you see the difference? I love it.
What's interesting, when I first stood after I tapped, I really just felt such a larger imprint of my foot into the ground, and then just more space that my of just my whole leg, and just more of a presence on the right side of my body. And I don't know even if you can see in this video that my shoulder feels like it's dropped in more back versus the other one, which seems a little bit more forward and like pulled in towards my body. So I really feel like I have this nice foundation.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it too. I can see that on you, that your right shoulder is more back. So speaking of the upper body, let's go ahead and do the arm on the same side and the thorax.
Okay, sounds good.
And I like to get under the arm because there's lymph nodes there.
Yeah.
And the side of the neck and the chest. And
When we're tapping up by the neck, we want to make sure that people are using a gentle pressure and they're not going hard when they're anywhere on their cervical spine or anything too close to the front of the neck.
Thanks for bringing that up. It's very important.
And I love too, when I'm tapping the arm, to really make sure that I get the hand to tap the palm and the back of the hand.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I love tapping under the armpit.
Yeah. Well, and there's lymph nodes right here too. So just real gentle on those lymph nodes right above the collarbone.
And if, as you're tapping, you feel this curiosity that you want to move the arm as you're tapping it, feel free to do that. You don't have to just keep the limbs still and tap. You can just feel free to move and tap. And while you're tapping, noticing the body part that's being tapped. And what that can mean is your arm as it's being tapped, or it could also mean the arm that's tapping. So focusing on the pressure as you're tapping and making sure that you're not getting too tired.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that.
Ah,
Yeah. So just let's notice our posture after doing that. Can you see my hand on my legs? It's longer.
yeah.
And what about movement? Flexing the arm.
Wow, my shoulder just floated up. My arm just floated up.
I feel like a small windmill on my left side. Oh,
The first thing that came to my mind was just like light as a feather, and it just floated up.
I get my spine moves better too.
So I think it's worth asking the question now. So why do we tap? Like, what went on here that by tapping the leg and it organized our body, and tapping the arm, why we feel this lightness and better mobility? Like, why did that happen?
Right. So we have proprioceptors under our skin. Do you know what proprioception is?
Let's tell everyone what proprioception is.
Right. Yeah. So basically, proprioception is the awareness of the body knowing where your body and your limbs are in space. So for example, my body is aware that my arm is moving out this way versus this side is moving, or that I'm side bending, or that I'm going to twist and turn. And the reason is that there's proprioceptors and sensory organs. That's what the sensory organs are, the proprioceptors, but there's several different types that are found under our skin. And so when we tap them, we're actually waking them up and bringing awareness to them so that they become heightened. And so tapping and brushing and shaking are all great ways to stimulate the proprioceptors.
Right. And we have different receptors. Some respond to vibration, some respond to pressure, some respond to more of a stroking or a shearing in the tissue. So when we do all of this, we're waking up those different types of receptors. And that then sends a message to our brain, which sends a message back down to our body that this is where you can organize yourself in space. And the beauty of it is that it's just happening dynamically rather than the other thing that people sometimes do when they're standing is they try to hold their shoulder back and down, or they try to put their foot in a different position, or put their pelvis to hold it in a certain position. And the beauty of this tapping is that after you tap, things just organize themselves because the receptors have been woken up. And the body just knows then where it needs to be.
And I think it's something that's good to do on a regular basis, a normal daily practice or several times a week, just so that you're keeping your proprioceptors heightened and that your body is more aware of how to move.
Absolutely. Can we do the other side?
I think we should. There we go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with the foot. And you can start anywhere. But I figure since the foot is the base of support, that's a good place to start.
And this would be a great thing for people to do before they're ready to go walking, before they're ready to go to an exercise class, right? Because you're really getting your foundation going and you're priming your spine.
What about going to sleep? How about that?
or going to sleep.
Right. Yeah, because again, back to the lymphatics, you're stimulating lymph flow and you want to have good lymph flow when you're sleeping. It decreases inflammation.
And really giving people the opportunity to tap what they feel they need to tap, what feels good in their body. Maybe you want to spend a little bit more time on the thigh. Maybe you want to spend a little bit more time in the glutes.
Or even the front of the pelvis, huh?
Or the front of the pelvis.
Well, what about for digestion?
And
my posture feels more upright, supported. I stand on that leg. Oh, superwoman. Right, and the kick. Yeah, that's much better.
When I first kicked, I felt just that immediate difference between the sides where there was so much more tension up the back of the leg. And it's just so amazing that that little bit of tension of tapping was able to change that tension sensation.
Right. And every person's an individual. So for example, Solange, you have better flexibility than I have. And so our range is going to look different, but the importance is how we improve from before and after. And
Absolutely.
I definitely improvement with that. So we ready to do the arm?
Yeah. And one thing that we should also mention is that as we're tapping, we're always, of course, breathing.
Of course.
So
You know,
We're
that's important that you bring that up because sometimes people hold their breath
anything
when
when
doing
they're
that.
focusing or doing an exercise, there's this tendency to hold the breath, but we're always breathing, and it's worth mentioning that.
And also when you're talking, it's
Mhm.
easier to stop breathing when you're talking. And I'm going to get a little bit of my back.
I'll go there next.
How about a little bit of movement while I'm tapping? And the neck. Haven't gotten the neck yet.
Mm.
Or how about this for the spine? All right, let's see if you can see all of me. Let's step back. The top of the head and the sacrum while you do some movement, right? And what if you do some crazy movements?
I love that. Even just to, I'm tapping the crown of my head and then the other balls at the tail. And just to appreciate that my spine is in between this distance as I do different kinds of movements.
I remember the first time that I did this movement, my girth felt so good.
Oh, gonna shake that side out and then check it back in.
Feel so open in the chest.
Mm.
And check balance.
And we really want to encourage you to take the time to do these checks, because when you check back in and you notice, yeah, my shoulder is more flexible, my balance is better, that's that moment where your brain has clued in that I don't need to have excess tension. I can actually run a different program where I have more mobility and less tension in the body. And you can keep recreating that experience. And that's how we really get to changing our patterns over time. But without that noticing, then, we just do an exercise and we don't get that sensation of, well, what does it do for us? It's just then, a checklist as
Right.
opposed to,
Yeah, I love that you're saying that we want less tension in our body. And what a
yeah,
great way to do it. It's so simple, isn't it? And
so
you don't need a ball
simple.
to do it. You can use your hand. You can do any part of your body just for moments. You could do it in between job tasks or, work at home tasks. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think this is a great time for us to check in with our body and notice our spine. Just really focus on different parts of your spine and how your posture feels in standing. Does your head feel supported by your neck? Does your head feel light? And how about your arms and your legs? Do they feel supported by the spine? Your breath? What did you notice, Solange?
So in my check-in, I felt like just swaying back and forth. So I didn't like, I guess the two words that come to mind are first being support. And then my check in, I was feeling this postural sway so that it was more dynamic. So those were the first things that came to me. How about you?
I was just noticing each vertebrae and how flexible it felt. and how I could breathe more easily as I focused on my spine. The breath was just, that was probably the biggest one, is just noticing my breath.
And I love doing the check-in after we had tapped and done those checks too, because that, like, I already felt like I had improved my posture. So then when I did the check-in, I was already a little bit more embodied and focused on the support that my spine gives to my limbs, focused on the support that the spine in connection to the legs. So it really, and breathing, and it really just enhanced those
It really
things.
did. Yeah, it definitely enhanced it. I love that. So what do we know about the spine?
Well, I think, we want our spine to be strong and flexible, right?
Right.
So, so I think what we think of when we think about the spine is that it's not this rigid structure, but it's something that can adapt and be responsive, and it can give us stability at certain times, but also mobility. So we can do all sorts of really cool sports and balance acts and performances.
Yeah, like circus, ice skating. Ice skating's another one where you see beautiful positions, twirls and spins up in the air. And what is that called when somebody is in a net up really high and then they twist their body in all of these positions the with the cloth as
Oh,
their
an aerial artist in the
yes.
silks, or
Yes. So one of my friends, she's in her 20s and she's an aerial artist. And so when we were in Australia, we were just out doing some hiking and things like that. And she was doing some of those moves, and they just look so inviting. And there was one where we found a kind of like a you know how you see a rope swing? Well, this was a tree limb swing, and it attached from one tree to another, and so it's up high connected, and then it comes down into a nice swing. So she gets on that, and also it's on a cliff. She gets on that and just starts swinging, and she's so graceful the way she moves.
wow.
And at first I thought I wouldn't do it, but then it would just look so enjoyable and so relaxing. So cautiously I got out there and I attempted to do it too. And anyway, it was awesome. So this is the beginning of the branch that's connected from one tree to another. So just watch her spine too, as she had leaned back to get herself started, and then she leans forward, right? Leaning back and forward and back, and just picture yourself on a swing and having that type of movement.
And I really saw with that too, the idea of strength with flexibility, because if she was only strong, she wouldn't be able to get that back and forth. It's strong yet free to get that nice swing.
Right, and let's just kind of do that with her, right? Like moving your spine like that.
Oh.
Doesn't that feel good? Especially looking at her. Imagine that we're her doing it.
And then I think we also want to share a picture of you too, right?
Yeah. Right. So here's a different limb that is connected to, I think it's connected to the same tree, but it could be from one tree to another, but it was strong enough to support us. So here I am just sitting out on this limb. And as you can see, I'm sitting over the sidewalk. Can you see how like way out there?
So that is high up. Wow.
Yes, that is really high up. That was fun.
Aww.
What was fun is that she would do different things and I'd think, oh, I want to try that.
Oh, I'm so glad that you did.
This is in Australia. So
Wow.
we did some hikes in Coolangatta and Currumbin.
Mm,
That's north of Sydney.
nice.
Yeah.
So back
Yeah.
to our functions, right? So we have this function of strong and flexible, and that we know that the spine is this tensegrity structure. And should we explain the concept of tensegrity?
Yeah. So tensegrity has to do with tension and compression. So you could have something that gives it structure, right? Which would be the compression. So it would be kind of like a rod type of a thing, like a pen, right? A pen has that type of compression. And then you have tension. So that would be more like an elastic band. So here, right, we have this tension. So it creates tension that supports the rod,
Mm,
right? And so it allows our body to maintain structure, but also to be in various positions. And so even if we're thinking about, the movement of being on a swing, right? So
mm.
sometimes we have tension and sometimes we have more compression, but we have that going back and forth. And there's two people that come to mind that explain it really well. One is Stephen Levin. He is known as the father of tensegrity, biotensegrity, I should say. And then Tom Flemons, he basically designed some different types of models using rods and tension pulls. And and so he has a whole book on showing all of these models. And about 20 years ago, he had contacted me since he knew that I was working with tensegrity and asked me to edit his book.
Wow.
Pretty awesome.
That's a
But
great explanation. Thank you.
oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. So the other thing is we want our body to maintain posture, right? So why don't you talk about that some too?
Yeah. So if we go ahead and stand up, let's have an experience where we just notice our posture. And by that meaning what's going on with our feet, what's going on with our pelvis, what's going on with our upper bodies, our shoulders, upper back, our head. And when we think about our posture, even just standing there here, maybe you can get a sense that there's a sway in different directions. Maybe you might feel it forward and back. Maybe you might feel it in a little bit of a figure eight. Maybe it feels a little bit off to one side. Maybe you feel it as a shift to the inner or outer corners of your feet, or to the front or back. So in the fitness world, and sometimes people generally think that good posture is holding one position or being upright. But we have this, we're constantly trying to counterbalance different parts. And there's always these subtle movements so that our muscles aren't gripping on either side. They're sort of this kind of, they're maintaining this counterbalance. So they're being used just enough. And if we're held in one position too long, or if we pull our belly button to our spine, and we can even try that right now, pull your belly button to your spine. If you have a sense of what that feels like, to me, it feels like, well, it's harder to speak to you. And I feel a sense of tension across my back and just around my whole core. And it feels like something that's the question I ask myself with that is why? Like, what do I need this for?
Yeah. And what word comes to my mind is juggling. And so the muscles, the fascia, nerves, everything around the bone is juggling and finding the best position to support the posture at that moment. at any given time.
And I love that too with the juggling because that's exactly it. At that moment, that our posture is ever changing. And it's from moment to moment, we're not in the same position. And if we think about posture being more moment to moment, well, then we give areas of our body a break, right? We're not just working certain areas all the time. It's like some are on, some are off. And it really gives the sense that we can be relaxing and not working, and it's really more efficient.
And I loved your description of the postural sway and noticing the feet and the tripod of our feet, like we think of from the toes, the big toe to the little toe to the heel, and how there could be some postural sway. And so I just played with that as you were describing it, and it just kind of opened up more ideas for my body for standing and being flexible and yet supported by my spine.
And we can even try that now. What I'm doing is just like I'm swaying side to side with the focus of moving to the feet. Like I'm moving to the outer corner of one side and the inner of the other. And just noticing now, like, what's that doing to my pelvis? What's that doing to my spine? What that's doing to my head? And then making the movement kind of really smaller. And I have the sense that, like, yeah, like my feet, my rib cage responds to my feet, my pelvis responds to my feet, my head responds. So it really just gives this holistic sense that, like, yes, we are all connected. So that stuff that we can do to our feet and our base can really influence higher up and vice versa.
And what if we imagine, so standing there, I'm going to describe this to you, Solange, and to everybody listening, but standing there and noticing the tripod of your feet. So from the big toe to the little toe to the heel and back to the big toe again. Now imagine that being the tripod, and imagine your feet magnetically being connected to the ground. How does that feel?
I like that.
And what about connected to the center of the earth?
Ooh.
I'm going to feel that.
What's interesting in my tripod too, and I encourage you guys to notice what you feel in your own body, is that I feel like I don't have two like symmetrical tripods in my feet. Like one feels a little bit different. But that's okay because I know that we all have different imbalances and patterns. So the one that feels like more balanced, I'm trying to bring that sensation into the other one. So
Yeah.
if you feel like you don't have these symmetrical tripods from right to left, that's absolutely okay. You can try to work with the image to say the one that feels a little bit less balanced. Can we make that feel more stable? Can we do a little bit more focus on? So now I'm shifting the focus to my right side. Like, can I have that be more of a stable tripod? So I'm thinking of like when I set up a tripod to like just extend the legs a little bit further out and make more of a base and really connect that down into the center of the earth. And that gives me a little bit more spread on that foot.
I love that.
I really encourage you to play with your feet and see how your feet are responding to different movements because they are like we just experienced how they affect our pelvis and our spine, and we can feel how things are counterbalancing and responding to our feet.
Yeah, we covered a lot about the posture, but what about the spinal cord?
Yeah, so we know that the spine houses our spinal cord, and that's just essential for our nervous system and our functioning. It's our communication between our brain and our body. So that's a pretty important function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm thinking too with good movement. So we need movement for us to have that connection. And being on a swing, I think after this we should go get a swing.
Or go to the playground, or when you're swinging with your kids, right? Be on the swing. And I do remember, so when I hadn't been on a swing for a long time. I don't remember how many years, but my kids first started to go on the swings, and I had that experience of swinging next to them. I had this moment where like I didn't know where I was in space. I had lost that communication and that free flowing. And I think probably, coming out of pregnancy and postpartum, like I had a little more tension. So I didn't have that really free communication that you need to be on the swing and to have it be coordinated and really effortless.
And so my granddaughters are now 4 and 7. And when I would take them to the park and teaching them how to swing when they were younger, and how do you teach this type of movement on the swing? So what I did is I taught them to swing their legs out, bring them back, out, back. And so I'd be yelling, out, back.
That's it. I'm remembering now to my childhood, my dad used to say, pump your legs, pump your legs.
So it was all about the legs and the feet, wasn't it?
Right. Because if we're just doing it here, yeah, like we need to really like that swinging. That's so beautiful. Like it is integrating our whole body.
It is. I just talking about it brought that memory back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what about force absorption?
Yeah. So force absorption is a big one. And let's stand up and have an experience of that. So I think pretty much most people have had the experience of the opposite of force absorption, is which if you've stepped off of a curb and you've kind of stepped off and you weren't expecting it to be the height that it was, or you sometimes got a jolt where like you maybe felt that in your back, maybe you felt it strong in your leg or your foot, this unexpected like hard sensation. That's a lack of force absorption. Yeah. But what force absorption is it allows the body time to deal with the force or whatever the load is that's being placed upon it. So a beautiful example of force absorption is if we jump and we bend our knees, what that bending of the knees is, it's giving the time to absorb the force. If we jump and we hold our legs rigid, can you see that that's less time? And what it feels is very jarring and compressive. So when we jump and bend the knees, that is giving us that time that we need to absorb the force.
And when you straighten your knees, can you feel it in your low back that it feels tight, like jarring, like you said?
I felt it right away just in my back. And I think what I noticed too with a lot of people when they jump and they don't do exercises that prepare the legs, there's different stuff that you can do to get this flexibility and range of motion. If you don't have that and you have a lot of tension, when you jump, it can feel you have more pain in all sorts of areas. And jumping can, instead of feeling elastic and bouncy, it can feel just really like hard and rigid and just too hard on the joints overall.
It's like brings us back to jump roping, doesn't it?
Speaking of jump roping, I have one. Should I pull it out?
Yeah. Have you been practicing?
I actually have been practicing jump roping. So I have my jump rope here. And are you guys ready to see jump rope and the force absorption in action? All right. Yeah.
Look at how fluid that is. That looks great. And it's fast too.
And that's exactly it. When you get into a nice rhythm with the jumping, it's like I'm using it to go into the next one. So I'm not taking that force and then letting it impact my body. It's like I'm storing it and then it's going into the next one.
I love that you say that because that is a storage.
And I was also thinking too when I was jump roping, because many people, when they jump, they feel compression either in their back or their knees. It's hard on their joints. I was really thinking about the center of my body like a spring. So,
Mm,
it's like I was kind of feeling like this going on, this like compression, release
wow.
in this. So instead of it just being like pounding, 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 it's like, no, yeah, I'm storing energy and it's really
Yeah. Love
elastic
the
and
way you put that
responsive.
too. Yeah, I love the way you put that because you're storing the energy. And I think when you focus on storing the energy for the next, that it's giving more of a spring-like effect.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what else is the spine good for?
So, yeah, well, definitely it protects our internal organs, right? So it's protecting. And if we look at the spine and our rib cage attached to the spine, well, that contains our heart and our lungs and our liver and stomach. And, all our organs are kind of balanced around
Yeah,
our spine.
that's true. And if something's going on with our spine, it could affect our organs or vice
Definitely.
versa. Something going on with our organs could affect our spine.
Definitely. That's really important to mention that.
Yeah.
So I think that covers it, right? And our goal here with this workshop is really that we have a healthy, strong, and energetic spine.
So those are good quality words of the spine too. And I think we should explore that more, looking at what the qualities of the spine are. So, as you mentioned, strong, healthy, flexible, adaptable. We want our spine to be able to adjust to different positions, even with the jumping of the rope or the swinging, right? We
Mm.
want to be able to be adaptable
And
and
also like, did you say vibrant?
vibrant.
Oh, I love that. Vibrant, energetic. Yeah, and
You
I
look
love that too. The vibrant and the energetic, that's going back to the spinal cord too, which is really giving us communication and
at
life and this like life force and energy.
right. Yeah, and it reminds me of Shaston when she was on that swing. And of course, she's been up in the air a lot more than I have. And to see how she's moving, she's just so graceful and so
Um,
vibrant and energetic. And then some of the positions that she was in, right? So there's one picture where Shaston is hanging from the trunk, not the trunk. She's hanging from the branch, and she had just finished swinging, and so she just flipped back and put her legs in different positions. She's an aerialist,
wow.
and just the movement, the strength, the vibrancy, resilience. And it just
Mm.
looks so inviting, so juicy.
Oh, I love that. Juicy.
Yeah,
Her movement is really, really beautiful.
isn't
And
it?
and then we also have this other picture of her where she has her leg extended all the way up
Hmm.
and she's kind of balanced standing on this beautiful branch. And just to think about that how that spine has to be strong yet flexible so that she can have her balance and yet her leg all the way at the end of her range of motion.
And to be able to connect from her foot, so she's got one foot on the branch, and then the energy comes, the strength comes up into her spine, and then she's holding on for counterbalance with one hand as her other leg is coming up. So amazing.
It
Now, this
really,
is
really is.
years of practice and um, performances that she's done so that it's
Yeah.
so fluid for her.
But these are really fantastic words that we're throwing around about the spine. So, do you think we can move? with
Yeah,
those
so let's
words and
review those
images.
words. Yes.
So
Which word was your favorite?
I'm going to go with vibrant and juicy.
Uh-huh. And I want strong and flexible. So just all kinds of free-spirited movements.
Yeah, so let's move our spine in any which way. And so right now I'm side bending with a little bit of rotation, and I can also flex and extend, and we'll say those words. My spine is vibrant and
My spine is
juicy.
vibrant and juicy
I'm strong and flexible,
and free-flowing.
free flowing. I have a vibrant and juicy spine.
My spine is happy.
My spine is happy. And whatever words come to you in this moment, try that word on as you continue to move. My spine is adaptable. My spine is loving.
Mm.
My
My
spine has,
loves life.
say that again.
My spine loves life.
My spine loves life. My spine has inner wisdom.
My spine knows all.
My spine knows all.
My spine knows
Mm.
how to prepare me for every situation.
My spine can prepare me for every situation. Ah, so how was that experience for everyone?
Look, look, look.
That really made me so happy. Like my mood is just so lifted from that exercise. And I, in general, feel lifted.
I can feel that too. That just like I just have a big smile on my face.
Me too.
So nice to use words like that. And you know, when you compare that to what people often say about their back, right? What kind of things do you hear people say?
Well, number one is pain. And then they start listing what that pain is, like arthritis, old age, my back feels broken.
My back is out.
My back is out. I have a slipped disc. I'm achy,
Arthritis.
arthritis. My spine is cranky. So
Yeah.
why don't we do our test again? We're going to move in that same way and we're going to throw those words out and let's see how that affects our experience.
What if I
Okay.
said I didn't want to do it?
Well, I don't really want to do it either because I feel so good, but I know that we have to because that's part of this exercise. So,
I know.
so let's go ahead. Oh, my back is achy today.
Oh, and I'm so tired. I didn't sleep well, and my back hurts from the position I slept in.
Oh, my back is broke.
Oh, and I've been driving all day, and my back hurts so much from driving.
Oh, my spine is so cranky.
Oh,
I'm tired. Yeah, everything aches, and the more I move, the achier I get. I don't know, maybe this exercise is hurting me.
yeah. I feel like
Yeah,
now it's hard to move.
yeah, my back is out.
Yeah.
Oh, let's shake that off. What did you guys think of that? Oh, so let's go back.
Juicy, flexible.
Yeah, flexible, juicy, free flowing, inner wisdom, shiny, vibrant sign, energetic, free flowing.
So much better.
So much better. Random movement and improvisational movement is one of the best things that we can give our spine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So self-talk, we learned from those experiences how important self-talk is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we look at the spine, we have 33 vertebrae. Let's see, I will show you this one.
Yeah, let's take a look at our spine.
Yeah.
So let's look at the structure of the spine.
I'm going to kind of give you a lot of different views here. So if you look at the front part, here's the vertebral body, right? And if we look at the top, so right there, that's the occipital condyle. It's the base of the skull. And it sits right on the atlas. And then below that is the axis. So these two are really important, atlas and axis. And there's 7 cervical, so that's referring to the neck. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at all the different shapes too of the spinous process.
I love that. And I love the way you ran your fingers on that, because I just got the image like, oh, she's playing guitar on the cervical spine.
That's nice. I like that idea.
I really like that. Like I'm gonna.
I don't play the guitar, but I play the piano. I'll have to imagine the spine. That would be fun. And then you have the thoracic spine. So let me just kind of go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're starting right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Wow.
And I'm going to turn it this way. So from where my finger is here, I feel like now I'm playing a guitar, to right down here. That's all the thoracic spine. And look at how the ribs are attached to it.
Yeah.
So you've got important organs in here, heart and lungs. And then if we just turn it around, you can kind of see through it a little bit, can you? The vertebral bodies in here, separated by discs. You can see the discs down here better. And the nerves coming out.
Yeah.
Can you see the nerves? The little yellow things?
Yep.
Yeah. And then here's the lumbar spine. And look at how big and fat these vertebrae are.
Yeah.
We have
it's worth to also mention, just looking at the lumbar spine, just how big and supportive they are, because that's an area where tons of people start to get issues with in the spine. But if we can appreciate that strength that the lumbar spine has and the structure of it.
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting too is the position that our body is in. So I'm just kind of thinking about the pelvis and the legs. And, you know, sometimes people might stand like this or like this, right? And so what position does that put the spine in? And is it putting force in the right places?
Absolutely. So let's show those lumbar vertebrae again. You want to count them, play the guitar, play the piano.
All right, so here we go. So here is the lumbar spine, and it actually starts up here, but the best way to find it, if you're looking at a skeleton, is to find the sacrum and then go to the first vertebrae from the bottom. So that's L5, L4, L3, L2, and L1. And look at how big they are. So they're big and round because they're supporting the whole spine, but they're also receiving the ground reaction forces from below for force absorption. So it's very, very important. And the position of our pelvis and our legs, you know, we don't want our legs rotated out like that all the time and standing, or overly rotated in. So we want a balanced posture to balance our muscles and our fascia. And I think that some of the movements that we do, you'll be able to see that.
And I also have some of the vertebra individually, just to look at the sizes of them next to each other to compare the segments. So here is a lumbar vertebra. This is L5. Then here's a thoracic one, just to see the difference in the shapes. This one is T8. And then here is a cervical one on top.
The difference.
So we can really see the difference in sizes.
Yeah.
From different parts of the spine. And we really want to get a sense of the sizes and shapes, because that's going to help us with our weight bearing and with our movement.
It's kind of like a pyramid. If you put them real close together. Yeah.
See.
Yeah. So we can see the pyramid from there. Look at that.
Yeah, if we think about them on
Uh-huh.
top of one another, we can see like, yeah, it is kind of like a pyramid, like wide at the bottom and getting
Yeah.
narrower at the top.
Right. Or you
So,
could say a reverse pyramid, right? Because you have the occipital condyles and the mastoid process here. And then as you angle down all the way to the tailbone, right? That's another type of a pyramid, a reverse pyramid. And you know what's
yeah.
neat is they're like the tripod of the feet.
That's right.
Yeah.
So why don't we stand up for a moment and let's have an experience of that pyramid, and we can also compare that to the tripod in our feet. So as I'm standing, I'm just thinking about, first, I'm thinking about being the top of the pyramid, the cervical spine. So they're smaller and it's more narrow. And then they widen as we go into the thorax. And then when I get to the lumbar, they're big and chunky. So I'm thinking about that pyramid inside my body. And then let's connect that to the feet. So we have the tripod in our feet. So we have the heel. And then if we draw the tripod to the big toe and then out to the pinky toe. So can you get a sense that you're weight bearing evenly on your tripods?
I think
And
of
that,
the heel. Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I think of the heel like the cervical spine and the front of the foot, the forefoot, like a lumbar spine. So as you were describing the cervical spine being narrow and then the thoracic spine larger, the lumbar spine even larger in the vertebral body. And we're standing there noticing our feet. I started thinking about, oh, that's kind of like our heel. Our heel is like the cervical spine, and our forefoot is like the lumbar spine. And
Mm.
it's just making that connection of that pyramid.
Yes, how it's going like narrow to wide, but like forward in space. And
Right.
then if we think about our spine upright, we're like wider at the base and then narrower at the top.
Yeah.
And then we could also think if we wanted to embody the reverse pyramid up at our neck, if we think about the occipital condyles, so feeling the occiput, thinking that being wide, and imagine then a reverse pyramid going down to your tail. So your tailbone being narrow, being like the tip of the pyramid. Mm. These are really fun images to play with.
Aren't they?
So I'm going to bring my skeleton up close so we
All
can
right.
really take a look at more of the functional components of the spine. So we have our three main functional components of the spine. We have the bodies, which is where we want to be weight bearing. And if you take a look at the spine, what I always find remarkable is that the spine is really in the center of our body. And that's where we want to be weight bearing on these big, chunky vertebral bodies. And we want to think about that in the center of our body. And then behind the vertebral bodies, we have this canal, the vertebral canal. And you can see on Debbie's model, that's where the nerves are exiting. Those yellow nerves are exiting through those foramen's. You have this canal which houses our spinal cord. And we want that canal and that channel really to be open and free so we get communication up and down between our brain and our body. And then the last function is movement. And what I often find remarkable is that when people think about movement, they think about what they can touch in their body. And when we just touch our back, and what we feel in the back are the spinous processes, these chunky bones that stick out. But that's not where we move from. our movement is actually more internal. So if you shift your mind forward and you kind of zoom in like an inch and a half forward from those spinous processes, we get to the joints in our spine that are called the facet joints. And Debbie's showing that with the pen there, pointing to it. And those joints are where we have our movement. And as we go from the cervical spine, thoracic, and lumbar, the angle of those joints changes. And so that's what determines the mobility that we have. And Debbie's really doing such a nice job just tracing down with her pen where those joints are. And you can see in the thoracic spine, they're kind of close to where the ribs articulate with the spine. So we're going to look a little bit later how these joints move, but let's just throw this out there to you guys as a question. How many joints do you think there are in the spine? What do you guys think?
There's got to be over 100 joints in the
Over
spine.
100 joints. Wow.
That's a
Now,
lot.
and the question then becomes, are we moving all of these 100 joints? And if not, we want to be moving these joints. So we're going to do some movement now. And with the knowledge now, where are the different components of our spine that we have? So we have our weight bearing, our communication, and our movement in these facet joints. So we're going to do some actual movement, and we'll think that we're moving these 100 plus joints. So you guys ready to move?
Absolutely.
We're going to do this Franklin method exercise now, which is called the spine dance. So we're going to begin, and I'll turn my self profile so you can see. We're going to begin just flexing the spine and extending the spine. So go ahead and flex, 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 and extend. And our spine is so long that what we could do is we can flex the lower part, and then we can flex the upper part, and then we can extend the lower part, and then extend the upper part. So we'll do that again. We'll flex, flexing the whole spine, and then extend, and flex, and extend, and now flex the lower, flex the upper, extend the lower, extend the upper.
Let's
So
do
we'll
that again.
Let's do that again. And this time, now that we've got the cueing down, let's get into our imagery of our spine, that we're moving all of these 100 joints, and that our spinal cord has this good communication, and that we're standing and we're weight bearing on our chunky vertebral bodies. Okay, so let's flex, moving our 100 joints, and extend, and flex, and extend, flex the lower, flex the upper, extend the lower, extend the upper, and flex, extend, move those joints, all those joints,
Happy
extend,
joints.
happy joints, flex the lower, flex the upper, extend those happy joints, extend the upper. So that is part one of our spine dance.
And then part two, I'm going to step back a little bit. You're going to bring your foot out. Step back even more. And part two is to bring your foot out. So you're going to bring your foot out and you're going to side bend. And bring your foot out and side bend on the other side. And again, repeat that. Side bend. Feel your nice juicy spine bending to the side.
My
down.
bending spine. I'm bendy.
Focus on the other side down, and then you're going to lift your head up. So now you're moving the cervical spine, and bend and lift the head up, and again bend and bring the head up first, and bend and bring the head up first. And I think we're going to do one more time. Repeat the whole sequence. Side bend and side bend. And one more time, side bend and side bend. This one feels so flowy. And
It
side
does.
bend and bring the head up. I love that part. And side bend. And my spine is so happy doing this part.
So happy.
One more time, side bend and lift. And side bend and lift. Nice. And the next one will be for rotation. So the next one is I'm gonna come up close here. Imagine that you have magnets on your hands and that you're attaching to something. So you're gonna be bent at the hips and the knees, and hands are gonna be forward. And then what we're gonna do is detach the magnet and rotate our hands over to the other side. And then what you're going to do is then shuffle your feet to get your trunk lined up with your hands. And we're going to do that in a full circle. And then we're going to repeat it in the opposite circle. All right. So hands forward, they're attached. Detach them, bring them to the other wall. And now I'm going to match my trunk up with my hands by shuffling my feet over there. And you're going to detach, go to the back wall, shuffle, detach, go to the other side wall, shuffle your feet, and detach and move it to the front.
I like to think with this one too, that there's a beam of light coming from my chest, so that when I detach my hands, I want to get that beam of light centered in between my hands as I shuffle my feet.
Just like a lighthouse.
Like a lighthouse.
Yeah. All right, let's do the other side. So hands are forward, and you're going to rotate. Now you're going to bring the beam towards your hands. And again, detach to the back side. Beam towards your hands. Detach. Beams towards your hands. And detach. So we could do that more quickly now that we know how to do it. All right.
And I'm really paying attention that I'm not cheating, because I can sometimes feel that when I'm doing the rotation, that my chest is not actually centered with my hands. Like I'm kind of trying to make more range of motion when it's actually a little bit smaller and a little bit more precise if I can get that beam of light just to stay in between my hands. So make sure that you're not compensating. And we have one more component to our dance, which brings all of these, our flexion, extension, side bending, and rotation together. So you're going to imagine that you're holding a platter on your hand. I have my ball, and you're going to spiral that ball around or platter without dropping it. So we'll do that again. So follow your gaze towards the ball or platter, whatever in your hand. We're going to spiral. So you're going to follow your ball around. And you can try that on both sides. And you can feel how that's taking you sometimes into flexion, sometimes into extension, sometimes into side bending, sometimes into rotation. And I love this one because it really feels like I'm getting into these nooks and crannies in my body, and I'm stretching things out. So the ball is a little bit tricky. So if you don't want to use the ball, you can just imagine that you're holding something and you don't want to drop it. And you can graduate to using the ball. So do you think we can combine all of these together into a complete dance?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
So here we go. So let's flex and extend our vibrant, juicy spine and extend. Flex the lower, flex the upper, extend the lower, extend the upper. And flex your bendy spine, extend, flex your beautiful spine, flex the lower, flex the upper, extend the lower, extend the upper. Then we're going to step out with the left and we're going to side bend. Step out to the right and side bend. And again, side bend and side bend. This time we're going to step out and side bend, then bend our neck the other way and step out to the other side and bend our neck the other way. One more time, side bend the neck the other way. Last time, side bend the neck the other way. And we'll get ready to rotate. So suction your hands, then release them, suction them again, and turn your chest so that it's in between the hands and rotate. Get that beam of light in between your hands. We'll meet at the center and then suction the hands. Get the beam of light in between your hands. Rotate. Get that chest to center in between your hands. And then lastly, we'll spiral. So go ahead and follow that imaginary ball that you're balancing your hand and the other side. And then let's just notice and feel our body. Let's notice our spine, our sense of support, our sense of movement.
My nervous system feels relaxed.
Your nervous system feels what?
Relaxed.
Relaxed.
Yeah. That's calm, peaceful.
Let's notice our breathing. So isn't that amazing how by using our self-talk and the words that we tell ourselves about our spine, and then understanding the structure, where we weight bear, where our nervous system is, where we move, and then just doing some movement with that, how that improves our spine immensely. That spine dance really felt great, didn't it?
It did. I love the movement. Yes. That was like the icing on
It was.
the cake, finishing with the spine dance.
Well, this was such a great episode today, just looking at how our thoughts and what we say in our head about our spine and those mood words, how they can influence our movement, and how, especially when we reinforce feelings of tired and achiness and crankiness, like how we definitely don't want to have that in our spine. and just looking at the function and the structure and really appreciating that the spine is in the center of the body and that there are different components to it.
From looking at those three components, the vertebral body, the facets, and the nervous system, the vertebral foramen. What really sticks out in my mind today after what we did are the facets, and just how the facets are in different positions depending on what part of the spine that we're talking about. And just love being able to feel that movement, especially in the spine dance, and the side bending and the rotation, and how do we continue to improve our movement. And the spine dance is a great key on how to do that. And then just imaging a happy spine, happy facets, facets that just glow and move so freely in all ranges.
And in our next episode, we're going to look more closely at the facet joints so that you'll be able to see how they move in flexion and extension, side bending and rotation, so that we can bring those images, those anatomical images, into our spine dance and into different exercises that we'll do. So this really was such a great practice today. I certainly learned a lot going through this with you, and I have some new embodiments and takeaways that I'll continue to use during the week.
For sure. I'm looking forward to that part. I love that we do this, and then we have some takeaways to be able to practice in between our sessions. Isn't that great?
Our takeaways and even new images that arise that we can share with one another next time.
Right. Well, I'll pretend we're Shastan.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. It was such a pleasure to practice with you today. And we're looking forward to the next episode. And Solange, thank you for practicing with me also. It's always a pleasure to work with you.
Absolutely. All right. See you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we would greatly appreciate it if you would leave us a review. You can also become a patron of the podcast. Join our patron program to get access to movement practices from each episode, bonus episodes, and Q&As where we answer any questions you have about the practices. We look forward to practicing with you and continuing to share our passion. As we say in the Franklin Method, better information leads to better navigation. Keep practicing, and we'll see you next time.